It's now 7 o'clock, and I call the meeting of the Silver Falls School District Board of Directors to order. We have 6 out of 7 in attendance. That's enough for a quorum. So let's proceed to the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jonathan, would you read the Board Superintendent Working Agreement, please?
You betcha. All right. Under collaborative governance, members of the board and the superintendent will work together in good faith as a team in the best interests of students, modeling a willingness to learn together. Board members will recognize and respect the superintendent's responsibility to manage the school district and to direct employees in district and school matters. Board members will give careful consideration, listening to all perspectives, to all issues brought to the board by individuals and district leadership. The board may only make decisions at properly called meetings. Board members recognize that individual members have no authority to take individual action in policy or district and school administrative matters, unless so authorized by a board vote. And then under communication agreements, we have board members must follow the chain of responsibility and communicate directly with the superintendent when a question arises, or a concern or complaint is voiced by a staff member, student, parent, or community member. Board members will endeavor to communicate directly with the superintendent or board chair prior to meetings of the board to address questions and or concerns about agenda items. Board members and the superintendent recognize that good answers often require preparation in advance of board meetings. When a board member and or the superintendent has an individual concern, he or she must communicate one-on-one with any member of the board superintendent team as appropriate. And lastly, in the interest of public transparency and full robust debate, board members will endeavor to actively engage in and contribute to board discussions and to share their perspectives on topics before the board. Full participation from board members in advance of a vote supports the board in making informed, well-considered decisions on important district matters.
Thank you. Hi, Tom. Now we have all 7 of us here, and it's time for the agenda review. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as published.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as published. Let's take the vote.
Lori?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
All in favor?
All right, next on the list is the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Take the roll.
Lori?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
All in favor?
All right, so the next item is an action item, and it's to approve the resolution in recognition of Teacher Appreciation Week, which is May 8th through 12th this week. And Aaron's going to read the resolution that we have. And do we actually formally vote on this? I didn't think about that.
Last year it was.
Okay, so we will vote at the end of the resolution, assuming everybody agrees.
Yes. So whereas the teachers, school counselors, specialists, and all licensed instructional staff mold future citizens through the guidance and education, and whereas teachers encounter students of widely differing backgrounds, and whereas our country's future depends on providing quality education to all students, and whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching students, and performing community service, and whereas our community recognizes and supports its teachers, educating in the children of this community, now therefore be it resolved that the Silver Falls School District Board of Directors proclaims May 8th through the 12th, 2023 to be Teacher Appreciation Week, and be it further resolved that the Silver Falls School District Board of Directors strongly encourages all members of our community to join in this observance, personally expressing appreciation to our teachers for their dedication and devotion to their work.
Very nice. Board members, do you have any personal remarks that you'd like to make in addition to that resolution?
I think the resolution summed up what really I want to say in formal terms, but just my heartfelt thanks goes out to all of our educators, our counselors, our staff, to just the countless hours that they put in, day in and day out with our kids, and helping mold them, helping educate them. And it seems like a proclamation just here once a year or a week isn't enough, but it's just something that we can do to extend our gratitude to all of our teachers. So I really appreciate what they do for us and for our kids every day.
Yeah, I'll go. Yes, there's been a lot of learning loss the past couple of years that the teachers are working hard to make up. Lots of anxiety in the classrooms and behavioral issues that the teachers are having to deal with. And I just want to say thank you on the behalf of the public for digging in, not giving up, and normalizing learning again and normalizing proper behaviors again. I know it's a hard job, but as they say, when you're going through hell, keep going so you get through the other side. And keep going. Your work is paying off, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Here, here. Yeah, I was just going to say a big thank you, and these guys have already said it pretty well, so I'll just say thanks. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to say a quick word, and I know we have the privilege of ratifying the collective bargaining agreement a little bit later in the meeting. Yeah, I know that was a very difficult and prolonged negotiation process, and I just really, really appreciate SFEA for sticking with us and working through that really difficult work so that we could come to a really productive conclusion. And it's over and above what they all do every day in the classroom. And so that kind of effort into that endeavor is really appreciated. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Owen?
Well, I just say thank you to the teachers as well. I can see in my own family with my 9 kids how many of them have been deeply impacted by a variety of teachers, and I'm very appreciative of that. They give things that we can't as parents often do.
Mm-hmm. Lori, would you like to say anything?
Yes, I really do appreciate our teaching, and it's been a very rough couple of years, and they are so incredibly consistent in the classroom and with our students that it's just very important that we do. And I wish we could celebrate it each and every day for them, because they certainly deserve it. The magic that they bring, how they touch the minds of learning and bring so much. So thank you very, very much to all the teachers.
I just have a fun observation that I saw, that the prom this weekend, the theme was Las Vegas, and Mr. O dressed up like Elvis. I mean, that's just excellent. Dedication right there. So, and that's just one way. That's how he contributes. But there's a lot of different ways that teachers contribute. And just in general, the business of teaching is super duper complex, and people don't. I mean, you're creating learning opportunities for live human beings all day long, and it is so complex. And so hats off to all of you teachers out there who are doing it every single day, because it's not easy work. All right, so I think we are going to vote.
A motion, but just go straight.
Oh, yes, we need a motion.
Yeah, I move to approve resolution declaring May 8th through the 12th, 2023 as Teacher Appreciation Week.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution in recognition of Teacher Appreciation Week, May 8th through 12th, 2023.
Lori?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
All in favor?
All right, and thank you, teachers, again. We'll move on to number 7, student representatives, Hannah Basher and Addie Basher.
Is it on? Okay. Good evening. My name is Addie, and I'm currently the Diversity Officer for Silverton High School ASB.
And hello, I'm Hannah Basher, this year's ASB President, and I'm excited to speak about all the things the high school has been up to.
Spring sports are well into their season now. Baseball is currently 5-9 in league, and they have a game tonight against McKay. Softball is currently 9-4 in league, and they also had a game tonight, but against Corvallis.
Track and field just hosted a varsity meet last Friday. The season has already been a number of school records. Their next meet is tomorrow, Tuesday, May 9th at Dials High School.
Boys and girls tennis have both finished off their league matches. First day of districts for both teams is Wednesday, May 10th at Timber Hill Tennis Club. And times are still to be determined.
The girls' golf team has their regional tournament tomorrow, May 9th at the Tri-Sting Tree Golf Course, starting at 12 p.m. The boys' golf team finished their season with a significant improvement from start to the end of the season.
Last week, Los Aguilas put together a Cinco de Mayo celebration in the Commons during our flex period. There were student speakers from the club, chips and salsa for a snack, and Woodburn's mariachi band came down and played for us.
Right after the Cinco de Mayo event, we had a send-off for our concert choir as they headed to their state competition where they got third in state.
Coming up, band has their next concert May 23rd, and choir has their next concert May 25th. Both will be in the auditorium at 7 p.m.
May 26th, the Friday before Memorial Day, the American Legion has a short ceremony at the Memorial Plaza at noon to kick off the weekend. Traditionally, students and school district staff got involved. This year's the Choraleers, band, and the ASB president as a guest speaker will be incorporated in the ceremony.
Many students have been taking their AP tests last week and this week, from AP Literature to AP Calculus, AP Computer Science, AP Biology, and more.
A big thanks to Mary Rankin, the junior class officers, and the junior student committee for all the work they had put into Prom 2023 to make it happen. It was an amazing event. According to Mary Rankin, it was the best prom yet. There was so much staff support and an amazing Elvis impersonator.
Our Silver Mass Thespian Society has their spring play performance May 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, all at 7 p.m. in the auditorium.
Best Box Ever was April 22nd. We raised around $15,000 this year, and our winner was Grace Traeger. Thanks to everyone who donated and helped out with that.
ASB and our school celebrated Secretary Day, Principal Day, and this week Teacher Appreciation. We can't wait to thank all these amazing people enough for their work that they do at Silverton High School.
ASB held their ASB and class elections over the last few weeks. We are excited for what our new group of leaders will bring to the table and accomplish next year.
ASB is working with SHS staff members to organize the Spring Academic Awards. They take place during school on Friday, May 19th. Students will be recognized for their academic achievements.
ASB is planning our upcoming Spirit Week, which includes the talent show, Power Flag football, and dress-up days, all leading up to our Spirit Games on June 2nd.
Senior Award Night is Thursday, June 1st. Multiple local scholarships and awards are presented to our seniors.
Lastly, graduation is coming up and will be held on Thursday, June 8th.
Thank you so much for having us, and go Foxes.
Thanks, girls.
Thank you very much.
Hannah and Addie, can you stay up there just 1 second? I just wanted to mention to the board and the public who might be watching that Addie and Hannah's mom is being deployed to a confidential location in another part of the world, and she's also, of course, Heather Basher is one of our assistant principals, and I have just continued to enjoy working with Heather. She's so positive. She's one heck of an athlete too. Has all these different things always going on, and she has this second career as a major in the Air National Guard. And I would not be surprised if she came back as a lieutenant colonel after her deployment. This is her first deployment overseas, and we'll all be thinking of her. And I believe she comes back in 6 months. Is that? Yeah, 6 months. And so anyway, we're really proud of Heather, and we're proud of you too as well.
Thank you. All right, up next, we have the Bethany Charter School Report. Kathy Frank is going to come tell us about what's going on at Bethany.
I love what the girls had to say, because isn't this the most craziest time of year in the school system? We just keep going, celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. Okay, so I'm here to just do my report, which is I copied last year's, or 2 year ago template. So if you have questions after this, I welcome them. I got it, hopefully did it come into your packet, your board packet?
No.
No.
Oh,
I
late.
have it.
Okay, that's all
Send it to
right.
them.
Anyway, I'll just start out a little bit. We have 18 staff serving 135 students. The biggest thing we have going for us this year is our amount of volunteers. We have logged 1,447 volunteer hours, and those are what help pay our bills. It's the first year I haven't had to be on the tractor. I've got parents organizing a facility crew. They're coming in, cutting. So it's really a plus after COVID. I think all the people wanting to get out, be a part of humans again, and it's just really skyrocketed. We appreciate them dearly. We're going to go back to celebrating our volunteers. I wish I would have brought in one of our pewter-lined volunteer appreciation awards. They are just utmost beautiful, and we honor 5 of our top. Well, we kind of coax in a few people to keep going so they don't quite get a pewter line right away, but we're going to honor them, red carpet extravaganza with dessert and that type of thing. Really, family is what it's about. They come in and they want to be there. So that brings us to our, I have the mission there because I'm sure you all have it memorized, right? No one does. So I just put it on there just to keep reminding us our key strategies and connections. The SIA plan is working alongside Silver Falls. I took your goals really because I feel these kids are turning into foxes. They're metamorphosing right now. Our 8th graders are getting, the fur is kind of changing from bobcat into fox fur. So we really try to keep with your goals and mission at our charter level. So with that, we had adopted our literature prior 2 years ago that we were looking at adopting literature, so I banked in on goals there. We have adopted that literature, I think, since then. Silver Falls has, so we're kind of in our 2nd year utilizing that. So our SIA goals are really now to put finances into making our space more available to do pullouts and interventions, because our special education services is really up and running thanks to Brandon. I see he's not here to, Brandon is really up and running, and we are just wall to wall. ESD comes in and our services are being provided top notch. So we need some space. So we're working on getting a learning center put in where that the children can be pulled out, again happening with the SIA funds and also parent volunteers who have their electrical license, all that good stuff. That's the beauty of the plus of a charter school. We don't have to go through as many resumes, but being that said, less finances, so we do it this way to make things happen. Our we weren't able to hire an SEL counselor, someone to coach the kids, and we too have noticed a lot of emotional stress, anxiety coming in after the COVID spell, and it's been pretty tough to try to keep coaching especially the little guys. I thought it would be more the middle school, upper school, but this batch of kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd graders are really the kids that we feel have been affected by the 2-year virtual learning. Just so we're hoping this year, after we get the space, we're able to bring in a coach to try to teach the not teach the SEL, but kind of take a look at what we're doing and then help us to further better our program. We use a free curriculum called Overcoming Obstacles, which has been really successful, but now I want the staff to sit back and look at what it is about and be able to implement it more heavily as they see incidents occurring. So we're hoping to get some part-time person in to help with that under the SIA. again, very much aligned to the district. I hate to throw any nuts and bolts into anything because I think why invent a wheel when we've already got it going well under this. Core values, I wanted this to come through because our core values are pride. It's the PRIDE program, and it's practice kindness, respect, inspire others and themselves, determination, excellence is the final out of pride, being a part of our Bobcat community. That's what we strive for. But in our practicing kindness, we have some pictures of sharing and working together. We're really up and down K-8. The beauty of that is being, you can have kindergarten through third graders, mix and matching with our 7th, 8th graders, helping out each other, vice versa. Respect is listening and working as a team. That was kind of one of our elements that we had to really work on this year after, I think the first year back, kids are like, yay, we're back. Second year, it's like, oh boy, yes, we are back, and let's pull some of our same things that, so bringing back the respect in our day-to-day life. Inspiration, we're always out there trying to inspire others. Children, we had a helicopter visit today, popped down on our property, and this fella came in and inspired them to use the use of helicopters in agriculture, which is part of our mission, trying to have 5 agriculture days. And this fella did an outstanding job. Now they all want to be pilots, they all want to spray crops, they all want to what have you. Determination, this is the beautiful thing of, I listened to the band and the gals over here sharing about the band and your drama department. And for determination, it's so beautiful. This Mr. Duffy has all come out of retirement. And so our determination picture really sums it up. We've got all these kids wanting to be foxes. It's like the biggest thing. We're going on to the fox den. So by having our determination pictures, when Mr. Duffy brought over your whole high school band to our rinky old paddleboard gym, and our little guys got to sit next to the big guys, and you can just see them looking up like they're movie stars, and they're all determined to get into the fox den and do their next level. We do really talk about how that's going to, you know, K-8 is nice, but when you get into high school, then things really come into place. They get to choose, and we're always focused on that. So the beauty of that day was just watching those kids, and Mr. Duffy did a panorama of them all playing, and you could just see lights in their eyes looking up at the big foxes. It's pretty cool. Okay, and then excellence, we at Bethany do a service learning project. Each classroom has to come up with some type of service learning, and then they write up a report on it, share some video type piece with it. And the picture in excellence is our 7th and 8th graders went into Salem Kaiser and went to the food bank, and they helped sort out and prep food to give to the people who are in need. And they did something, I can't recall it off the bat, but like 3,500 pounds of food boxed and sorted. And they got their hair bonnets on, and they're all working and helping out with that. So that's our goal really at Bethany, is just pride. All those character traits are focused, worked on nonstop. If you're bored this evening, you can go on our YouTube or go on Bethany Charter School page. Look at you're all like, oh, I'm gonna pop that popcorn, especially Mr. Von Flew over there. He's just determined to go home, pop popcorn, and watch our BBN broadcast videos, and you will have quite an insight into that little red brick and mortar. Okay, I think I have no test scores on here because we did not take those yet. Our goal, our vision statement is huge and lengthy. We're looking to revamp that. It's just overwhelming. So we're going to meet as a board and narrow that down. So our theme is kind of making the best of the past this year, making the best out of the past, and just always reminding and working towards what we have gained from the virtual learning. We're keeping a lot of that in place because a lot of that what came out of that was not all negative. We gained quite a bit of use of footage where students can flip grid themselves, pass it in, You'll see them moving out through the halls, kind of doing assignment tasks and giving, sharing them with this teacher, and then they're graded. So a lot of the things that came out of that, other than really that emotional piece, really focusing on trying to get out of the anxiety, celebrating our PE music, laughing, joking, having a good time. So that is it. Are there any questions?
I just wanted to commend you on your, it seems trivial, but I think it's super important for prioritizing student safety. Your little traffic pattern for pickup and drop off, as someone who is always going back and forth through that area, is just, I don't know how you all pulled it off, but it's genius. And I just like the fact that kids seem like they're now a lot safer and there aren't cars stacked up everywhere. So good on you all for figuring that out. I'm sure it was no easy task.
No, very much, Ben, because I was getting nasty phone calls quite a bit with plugged up traffic and hey. So this has really been not one nasty since. It's just really been operating successfully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
perfect.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
of
you.
course. I'm just
Beautiful.
glad the kids are safe. So.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to commend you on your enthusiasm, and you just inspire me every time you talk. So I appreciate it. You bring a smile to my face, and I'm sure that rubs off on those around you. So thank you.
Yeah, we are pretty three-fourths nerd, and then the other fourth is trying to get that academic rigor in there. But you have to. People take life so serious. So I think many of our stems of anxiety in our children is coming from adults reflecting their anxieties, and they're not ready for a lot of that. So really, just coming in, that door is wide open in the morning. We're greeting, laughing, doing our Arbor Day proclamation when you were reading your teacher proclamation. We were out in the covered area planting trees, and I'm reading it off just like Mr. Cook did. And we are cheering in between it on this day, the principal of Bethany, and we're just really just trying to give these kids a great memory. The academics comes if they're happy, if they matter in our door, so thank you for noticing that, because it is it's contagious, but it's also hyper, and you gotta bring her down a little, bring her down a little, but it's hard. That's why I'm still there. The day I'm bored silly is the day I'll exit or watching the clock, because these guys, it matters to them. They're just wonderful, and the kids in Silverton, I tell my staff, if you can't work at Bethany, you're probably in the wrong field, much like all the K-8s. I really do. We get outstanding kids, which are from parents who, that's why our volunteer numbers are so high. They want in, they want to be a part of it. It's fun. It really is. Tonight
Thank
wasn't,
you.
though. I was trying to put this off as long as possible, but because I'm not, I don't like people looking at the back of my head. It makes me quite nervous.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Thanks for allowing us to utilize that brick and mortar. It's awesome. Okay, so I'll come back next year and I'll be quizzing.
Thank you for your energy too. I love it.
I'll be quizzing
On the mission.
YouTube videos.
Oh, the YouTube, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yay.
Your principal, let's take action.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kat.
All right, with that, it is number 10, public comment time. If you would like to speak during public comment and are attending virtually, use the raise hand feature in Zoom. If you are attending in person, please approach the public comment table located in front of the board. I'm going to read a statement for everybody to remember when they're giving public comment. We're glad you're here and welcome you to address the board with your ideas, concerns, or compliments. Please keep the following in mind. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand to be recognized by the board chair. If attending remotely, please use the raise hand feature within Zoom. For the record, please provide your name and relationship to the district. Please keep individual remarks to 3 minutes. If speaking as a representative on behalf of a group of 3 or more, comment time will be extended to 5 minutes. A second public comment period will occur later in the meeting that is specific to discussion and action items only. The board will not hear complaints against individual district staff or board members during public comment. Please understand that the board's primary role is to listen, and you likely will not receive an immediate response. Finally, remember, we all model the way for our students and ask that you share your thoughts respectfully and in accordance with the Silver Falls School District Board Decorum Agreement. Is there anybody here in public who would like to speak? Dan?
Nobody online.
All right.
Well, there are people online, but no one has their.
Yes, okay. All right, well, we will move on then, and we do have that second public comment item later in the agenda. So now we have administrator and staff reports. We are going to start with 11A, the superintendent report.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm just going to wait a minute for Daniel to get the presentation up and running. I think they're and I'm just going to be, I guess I'll just talk off the screen here. So thank you, board. I have a number of updates I want to give tonight. At the end of my updates, we have a summary of the changes that were made to the collective bargaining agreement that we just settled. You'll vote to ratify that later, and at the end I'll hand that over to Dan. But first, since it is Teacher Appreciation Week, I wanted to point out this wonderful article from The Atlantic. In my opinion, The Atlantic is one of the few publications that is just exceptional in terms of its writing. And the editors and writers of The Atlantic wrote about their teachers and who made an impact on them. And so I'll include this in my Friday updates to you, and I really encourage you to read it because I guarantee you'll find one of the writers, whoever that may be, the descriptiveness of how their teacher impacted their life, one of them will resonate with you. The bottom there, the passage I took out of that article, I just want to read for the public if they don't see this on the screen, but this one really resonated with me. And it says, Mrs. Jackson was a hugger. I'm guessing her embrace would be frowned upon these days, if not an outright violation of policy, but they mattered to me. By wrapping her arms around me, she gave me a sense of belonging that took the edge off fears. She allowed me to become myself. I had a teacher very similar to Mrs. Jackson. I've said that before in my story. Every single bit of professional success I've ever had as a teacher and as an administrator, I owe to Ms. Sims, my Algebra 1 teacher at Santa Barbara High School. And for our staff here, our teachers here, the best compliment I can give is that I wish I would have moved to Silver Falls back in 2006 when my kids were going into kindergarten. So I wish my sons could have experienced the staff that we have here. This is my third district, and I've never seen anything quite like the love and respect that our teachers give to our kids every single day. I would want my kids, my twins, in Silver Falls School District with Silver Falls teachers. And as you know, I'm in schools almost on a daily basis, seeing the good work of our teachers and staff, and I just wanted to leave with that. That's the one disappointment I have, is I didn't come to Silver Falls soon enough. Along those same lines, I wanted to give a public shout out to the SFEA bargaining team. I wrote this in my updates to you, I believe, 2 weeks ago, but I just wanted to read it tonight. And it goes like this. For the strong, thank you to SFEA bargaining team for the strong commitment they displayed to their members throughout this entire process, which was 12 months, and for balancing their work as teachers and specialists with the demands of voluntary service to their association. Their own personal sacrifices were many, and that did not go unnoticed. Many, many late nights, many days that they spent out of the classroom just in the planning phase, and all of that was voluntary. So they had their day jobs to worry about, and then after the workday, came to the table to bargain with us, and we really appreciate them for that. And Dan will be giving some updates at the end. All right, so we're going to get into my updates. The first, we're going to start with budget, because as you know, this Thursday is the first budget committee meeting. And Steve will be sharing later in his presentation a little bit about where we are in our budget phase and what to expect. But I just want to give some precursors to the meeting on Thursday. And number one is, we have to remember that any budgeting process has to do with one focus, and that is, what is the strategic plan of the school district? All of our resources should be aligned to achieve the 3 goals in our strategic plan. And that plan is a 5-year plan, started in 2020, will go to 2025. And I believe our presentation on Thursday will address that focus and give our committee members and the public a really good broad view of what we're doing to move the strategic plan forward and to meet those 3 goals. And you're all well aware of them because I update you all the time on those. But that's really important. It's so easy in terms of a budget committee process to get down in the weeds of things that really at the end of the day can take our focus off of what is truly important. And this is what is truly important, a clear focus on what we have decided as our most important work as a school district. And then you've given me, you've placed the trust in me to execute that plan. And I'm very grateful for that. But the implications and challenges are many. And I just wanted to go over 5 of them here, because we're in no way, shape, or form out of the challenges we've experienced during the pandemic or post-pandemic. They're still very real. The state school fund right now is at $9.9 billion. So that's the co-chair's budget. The amount to keep the current level of service in Oregon schools right now would be $10.3 billion. So we think there's a pretty good chance of 9.9 going to 10.1. There's probably a pretty good chance of that, but we're budgeting at 9.9 to be safe. That is a lot better than 9.5. So I'd rather look at it as that glass half full. We've been able to get back 160 of the 400 students that we lost during the pandemic. That's 35%. 35% is better than 34%. So again, I'd rather think positively about this. I don't think we'll ever get the full 100% back in Silver Falls School District. I think the pandemic sort of shifted people's perspectives of what they want for their children, and I do think that we can be happy with 35%, but it is going to take a toll on our budget as well. That resulted in a decrease for the state school fund for the 2021-23 biennium. So we did take a little bit of a hit there. Number 3, as you know, we have a very alarmingly low ending fund balance. So that's how many million? $2 million in our ending fund balance, which would be enough to pay for only 60% of one payroll cycle. So it is alarmingly low. We still have one more collective bargaining agreement to negotiate, and we're looking forward to working with OSCA on that. That will come, as well as the teacher CBA that's new. Those will come with heavier costs. And so we just need to expect that as well. Again, I'm just trying to paint the picture of budget implications and challenges that are real now. And then there's the no more ESSER funds, no more federal one-time allocations of money that we used for this year as a shock absorber. Or we had a $1.2 million cliff that we needed to shore up, and we used ESSER funds to do that. We've also done a really good job of saving in areas, not hiring positions where we didn't need to hire. As you know, we run a very lean central office. It's one of the leanest central office if you look at our comparable districts as well. And so I think we're doing a great job there. While a lot of other districts are going into a reduction in force, we are not. And we want to make sure that we don't. And that just comes with a lot of being mindful of where we can save costs. Any questions on those points there?
Yeah, just a couple of pieces of the budget that just, I think we need to, for our public, help them understand. And just doing the quick math, looking at that 240 student deficit, that's roughly $2 million hit to our budget. And that's a lot. And it's concerning, but I know we'll find ways to make things work. And because we've been very lean and how we've done well operationally over the last few years during the pandemic, we've set ourselves up for being able to continue and like you said, Scott, not have a reduction in workforce. But it is a concern. You know, like I said, that's $2 million out of our budget roughly. But we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But that is a big concern on how this is going to shake down in our budget, because those, like you said, Scott, those kids aren't coming back. So I just wanted to at least throw that out there for our folks watching and folks here, that that's the magnitude of the hit to the budget this year. And again, coupling that with an ending fund balance that's well below board policy. There is some notes of concern there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put a downer on this budget cycle, but I just want to keep it in reality here that this is we're not in the best place we should be.
And on that note, I think it's important for you as a board, and also for our new board members coming in, to be thinking about taking a look at our policy to reflect the modern times we're in. Because pre-pandemic days are never coming back. And board policy is 10% of our general fund budget, which is really high. So I think there's something we can do working with that policy to achieve a goal that makes sense for Silver Falls and our financial health. And I was just talking with Steve about that earlier today. So it's something to keep in mind that I'd like to bring to you at a later date. Any other questions or comments?
I just comment, I have been seeing school districts announce reductions recently, and it's, thank you for your management, we're not doing that, and that's very much appreciated. So thank you very much for your work.
Well, we're very thankful for our staff in the business office. I was telling Steve and Dan this in a meeting we had just before the board meeting, and that is, wherever you go, whichever district you go to, the most important department in any school district is the business department. Without the cash flow and payroll and all of the other things that have to be managed by the business office, the compliance, the state law, nothing else works. So I think it's really telling nowadays too, when we see business offices who are really struggling right now to try to balance their budgets.
Any other questions or comments?
Any other questions, comments?
I don't know if it's a question. I mean, so I'm assuming those are the fundamental questions you're planning on addressing on Thursday then?
Yeah.
What our response?
Yes, and that's like a prelim to my superintendent's message.
Yeah, all right.
And then, Steve, this probably maybe a question for you. Do we know exactly how much will be allocated to the state school fund? Is that in June? I can't remember from times past.
It varies every legislative session.
And I know in the last week, they weren't getting quorums in the Senate, so I think a lot of things have been stalled. I'm not sure what happened today. There's been years where we've found out in May, and there's been years where we found it in early June, and years we found out in late June, but they must adopt the state budget no later than June 30th.
Okay.
Just like, but in an odd number year, a lot of times school boards and other government entities in Oregon are adopting at the local level before they know what their funding is. So
Right.
that's the challenge we face in these odd numbered years. So, and Scott's slide is very informative, and these are things we've talked about a lot the last few years, and we'll talk a lot more about it Thursday night. But we are actually now budgeting on a $10.1 billion state school fund. We're hearing pretty confidently that we should get to 10. 10.1 is questionable. Not seeing that 10.3 will be attainable, but it is what's being advocated for. So, but we'll get further into the details and how the budget's set up, and trying to reverse course on the depleted ending fund balance.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, talking about the bond, which is coming your way soon. We're here. This is the timeline we first rolled out in August, and we're coming to the end of the road. This is a timeline that hasn't been updated, but I like the visuals, so if you'll just bear with me. May 22nd will be our board work session, where we will present the bond recommendation to you. And you'll have time to study that, and all the way up until June 2nd, when you'll take a vote on whether or not you would like to see this district proceed with a bond campaign. That is 100% your call. And hopefully we've done the right work. Hopefully the committee's done the right work to boost your confidence in the bond recommendation, so that it's a bond that our community can support. And once that's done, we will start in on our official campaign, which will run to November 2023. And I just wanted to also mention, I like this visual, so I just put check marks here, because we just finished 10 community listening sessions. We called them Tell Us What You Think sessions, but really they're listening and learning sessions also. And that took a titanic amount of force and momentum to get them up and running, and then to debrief and plan for the next one, and then follow that all the way through 10 meetings. Took a lot of energy from our staff in support roles, took a lot of time and energy from you as board members. Some of you came to every single one, or if not that, then very close to it. I'd say many of you did. You had very compelling things to say, and I think it was really important to have your presence there. I think it meant a lot to each school community to see their board members there. Also, I've received just a lot of comments on the presence of our administrators. Our high school principal, Sione Thompson, was at every single one. And so it was really great for our other communities to see where the principle of where their children are going to end up. And this just speaks to, I think, the work ethic of our team, and our team includes you, that is a really, really daunting task to take on 10 in pretty much two months, two and a half months. And I just wanted to make sure that I thank you for that. That was a big ask, but I think the bond is a big ask from our community. You've seen this many times before. I just wanted to put it up here because I was able to put check marks to these first two stages. We're entering into the third and final stage, which is the board taking action, and then a potential election date set for November 2023. And so we'll be wrapping up the bond recommendation with the committee, and we'll have that presented to you by the May work session. Any questions on that or comments?
I'll just mention that, and I know this is coming, but I think one of the questions that folks have is about the advisory committee, the bond
Oversight committee.
Oversight
Yes.
committee, yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Jennifer. So this will be our first bond, if you will, that our team has worked on. So we will go with whatever the best practice is for school bonds. It will entail an application process. I can say we could take that to the bank. It will be an application process. It will be a representative from each school community. I think that's also very, very important, that each school community is represented with an equal say. But in terms of the particulars and when the applications are going to go out and all of that, we're just not there yet. We need to put every single bit of time and energy and focus on passing this bond. It's so important. If we don't pass the bond, we could be in a position where we just watch our schools deteriorate to the point where they can't be inhabited any longer. And we already know we have a section of our community that will vote no regardless. We already know that, and that's the wonderful thing about living in our great country, that we have the ability to vote for or against whatever initiatives and things come our way. But I can't impress upon the community enough what would happen if a bond doesn't pass, because it's not like we just go out the following year and sentiments have changed. And we are in such a dire need of a new middle school. I cannot impress that upon our community enough. And if anybody's interested, I would love to give them a personal tour of the middle school, just to show them the incredible work that the staff has done there to make it livable. But we're literally hanging on by a thread. This will be the first bond in the district's history that will touch all schools. The other thing I wanted to mention after the 10 listening sessions is, yes, we're being nickeled and dimed by boilers, by roof fixes, temporary roof fixes, all of that. And yes, we have a problem with deferred maintenance and making sure that we're able to pay for that. But let's keep in mind that this is an issue that took 30 years to create, because we've never had a bond that has touched all schools. 75 for the middle school, 68 for all the other schools. That is a significant investment in our schools to make sure that they are here for a very long time. And so I just wanted to leave you with those comments, but do any of you have any questions or comments you'd like to make?
I'll make another comment, just something that I've thought about as I've observed the listening sessions. Individuals have, ideals about how we can best use our taxpayer dollars, and everybody has those ideas. And they're being presented to us like, well, what about this, what about this, what about this? And one thing that I want to just put out there is that this idea that this process started with the long-term facilities group, and we have to really honor that work that happened. And so I guess I just want to like that is like my answer to some questions that people have, is that, well, what about this, what about this? I'm like, well, this is what we've had a large group of people working on this for years now, and this is the outcome of each of those steps along the way, and we really do need to honor this. And it's not going to be ideal for anybody. This bond will not be ideal in anybody's mind. It's a compromise, and so I just hope that we can all keep that in mind. And despite the fact that it's a compromise, I think that that's probably indication that it's a pretty good plan.
Well, and if we were able to get to a compromise, I love Owen's quote I wrote down, and I've used it repeatedly, and that's the great compromise. That's 5 years worth of work. 5 years with many, many different committee members, many different people, 3 superintendents. That if that can be done here, a great compromise that comes to you in the form of a recommendation, in a town as diverse in thought as Silver Falls, that is really saying something. And I think it's really impressive as a public institution to be able to wrap up this in the form of a recommendation that has taken 5 years to get here, to this month right here. So it's pretty neat.
I'd like to take just a second and address a word, since you mentioned it here at the end of your presentation, that's I've found quite irksome over the course of this whole bond process, and that term is deferred maintenance. The term deferred maintenance, I want to point out, I hope there's public listening, I probably should have done it at a bigger forum to talk about this, but it's never been defined. No one, it's been used by the public, it's been used by us, it's been used by our staff, it's been used by our consultants. That word's never been defined, but it certainly connotes wrongdoing, neglect, a failure on the part of the district. And I think what Scott just said tonight, really, that it's been a problem 30 years in the making. And I just point out some of what's been called deferred maintenance. You know, the roof on this building that's 25 years old. It hasn't been a failure of maintenance of that roof that's caused it to deteriorate and need replacing. Same thing with our boilers and our HVAC system. They are old. They're beyond their useful life. They're not supported anymore by the manufacturers. Manufacturers are out of business. That has all been lumped in as this term deferred maintenance. And so I take issue with that, I guess, that term because of the negative connotation there. And we have been severely limited by our budgets. And our budgets are what they are in large part because our community has not passed bond, despite many efforts by the board and other parts of the community. We haven't passed those bonds to do the maintenance that needs to be done to, you know, in the case of the middle school, to build a new school. So, yeah, for what it's worth, I guess I've said my piece on that.
Well, and I like what you landed on there, and this is something that I've kind of adopted too in my discussions around this, is that we have a community problem that needs a community solution. And I too get these questions about, well, what's the plan for moving forward with deferred maintenance? And people want me to commit to saying, well, we're going to handle deferred maintenance differently. Well, that's not something that I can promise and deliver, right? And so I think we can. It's hard if you want to elect people that keep an eye on, you know, the maintenance budget. I think that is a way to help, you know, the situation. But it's not like it hasn't. Our eyes haven't been on it already. Like that. That's the point that I've been trying to make. It's that we have limitations in our budget that, and every district in the nation has those limitations. And really the defining factor for the deferred maintenance is when's the last time you passed a bond? Mm-hmm. And so that's the part that I find that people are still having, there's barriers to understanding of that situation. So if we can help in our conversations with that, I think that might, I don't know, bring some truth to light.
Well, and I just think it bears repeating that the state school fund is barely adequate for teaching and learning. There is, you know, a total insufficiency of funds from the state to do any kind of capital repairs improvements. And it would be actually a tremendous point of advocacy as we see, I was going to suggest to Aaron earlier that there's another revenue forecast coming out next week, and to a certain extent they're waiting for the revenue forecast before they finalize their numbers. But it would be a tremendous point of advocacy to say, okay, state of Oregon, with all of this excess revenue that you've somehow been collecting over the past year, why don't you write a nice big check to schools across the state to invest in facilities and infrastructure? Because it, in my mind, is such a point of gross neglect on the state's behalf, to expect districts to, the only way they can go out and do this is via general obligation bonds and property tax revenue. It's what we have to do. It's all we have available to us. But I would love to see some advocacy at the state level, and I'm sure OSBA is, you know, and COSA and our other associations are doing that work. But it's something that people don't talk about, that sort of, it's not a point of kind of general public knowledge. Like, oh, you mean there's no money for facilities? No. Like barely, I mean, a tiny little drop in the bucket. And then, yeah, I appreciate your point. I think it has come up a lot, and I think I really appreciate the point you make about it having sort of this negative connotation that somehow we just haven't done our due stewardship of our resources. It's like, you got to, as Lauren knows, you got a list a mile long, and always chasing your tail, trying to keep up.
In addition to the woeful ability of our state to fund our districts, especially towards capital improvements, I think we've shared this at our listening sessions too, is just the amount of where, when you look at our budget, 80% of our budget goes to human resources. And the other 20% is for curriculum, teaching and learning, keeping the lights on,
Right.
Any maintenance that we can do, which at that point is minute. To your point, and echo it again, Janet, bonds are the only way for capital improvement in the state.
They are now.
And it's sad. It's hard because we have to deal with the issues that we have been given by the state. And I'm not trying to pass a buck here, because that's our job to be responsible and trying to find solutions. But the truth is the matter. We can only get so much from the state to maintain our buildings and to keep the lights on and keep our kids educated. And that's not even at the levels where we need to be. So I love the idea of the advocacy and what can we do more as a board to do that.
Well, and they just aren't talking about the revenue side of it, right? So it used to be a different equation. Timber revenues fed a lot of this discussion. And districts like those in this area were very much able to take care of those things. And while that began drying up for a whole host of reasons, nobody replaced it with anything. And at the same time, they start creating all these new mandates. You have to have this many this and this many that. And pretty soon, we are at a point where 80% is on just simply salaries and benefits. And that's it. I mean, there is no, you can't squeeze blood out of that turnip, because there is nothing there. And I guess just echoing what I'm hearing, it's a big problem statewide. And I agree with you, Jan. Any advocacy we can do that reminds people of, listen, you created this problem through a variety of policy decisions, but now we're stuck holding the bag. So help us out, right?
Well, and I think that the point you have, like the you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip, I think that there are people in our district who don't see it that way and want us to tighten our belts. And I am all for spending efficiently. And there just comes a point where there's no blood coming from the turnip.
Right.
Well, just to echo Owen's point on deferred maintenance, you won't find a harder working maintenance department anywhere. Also, you won't find a harder working or more committed community for each school. And we've been able to survive because of the incredible work ethic of our maintenance department, but also the resourcefulness of each school community. And the fact that our schools, their lifespan of our schools pretty much ended, a long time, years ago, we can say. That they're still clean and functional and still a happy place for kids to come to is a miracle. But the statement of 30 years to build, we're talking about in that facilities have outlived their lifetime and everything that goes along with the facilities, from the roofs to the flooring. And there's no way to take care of that stuff by just doing a little bit at a time. When things get out of date, it tends to come in waves because things get built around the same time.
The one thing that it will allow us to do when we I'm going to say when we pass this bond, because I want to be positive in thinking here, is that it will allow us to be more proactive and always just, instead of just trying to always plug the next hole in the dike that, you know, you plug and you go down the list and another one, you know, pops up. This will get to level set our district and to be proactive and to make things better than they were before. It will allow us to be more proactive. To what degree, we don't know, because budgets change, but it will allow us to be much more proactive in our projects, to allocate dollars for larger projects and keep them from getting to that critical mass kind of point.
And that's the part that I've been trying to explain, but I'm not sure I'm getting through, is that, yeah, the best thing we can do to preserve our general fund maintenance dollars is to pass a bond, because then we get to use those dollars in the way that they're meant. And then, but how long does that last? You know, like where's the tipping point where it becomes, well, we're not spending our money, maintenance dollars efficiently because we have to, you know, put out fires and deal with the leaks and all of that. So I'm trying to explain that, but I don't think it's hard.
Well, it's not trivial to explain, for starters.
Yeah.
It's not a soundbite, right?
Well, that's right, and maybe we can even, you know, take this discussion that we're having and turn it into an FAQ or something, because I do think that people want to know how the investment is going to be protected, and I think that is a lot, that oversight committee, I think, is the answer for some of that. But then how does the general fund maintenance piece also play into it? And the answer is not easy, and there's not a single one of us that can guarantee that, oh, we're gonna have perfect, you know, deferred maintenance issue. We just can't. I mean, I will not say that. I wish, but I cannot promise that. And so that's I don't know, that's just what I'm hearing in the hard part to talk to people about.
It's a really good reminder that I'll use Aaron's word, when this passes, we can't say, oh, phew, let's spend all that maintenance money on something else we've been wanting to. We can't, you still gotta do that, because otherwise you're just gonna create the problem even all that much sooner.
That's right. But eventually it will happen anyway.
Sure, yeah, right.
But yes, I think that's that. I mean, I think that may be what the people are asking for. And, you know, I'm like, well, do you have complaint about the way things have been going? Because I've been watching it for 6 years, and it's, you know, the biggest issue is that we have to keep putting out these fires, you know? So yeah, it's hard to have definitive answers, the definitive answers that people want, because again, it's a community problem that needs a community solution, and not a single one of us can be here for the next 30 years to watchdog, you know?
And if you're facing a decision between reduction in force and redoing a bathroom at
That's right.
school, even with the best of intentions, you may still end up deciding to not, you know, lay off staff, and you just recreated the problem, right? So you're right, you can't predict it, and that's how you end up here.
I want to remind our public too, just of some positive things that again, when we pass a bond, I'm going to keep saying that. So remember the awesome grant from the state of Oregon. Even though they woefully underfund capital projects within the state of Oregon, we will qualify for a $4 million matching grant from the state. So that 138 that we want to pass is going to turn to 142. The other bit of good news, and I can't remember if we talked about it at the last meeting, guys, but the seismic grant that we just got for Silvercrest was $2.4 million. Yeah. So now we went from 138 to 142. Now we're at 146.2 or 0.4, excuse me, ish. You know, if we want to kind of take all these funds and kind of throw them together. Our district has done a fabulous job over the years with seismic grants, which really do some transformational work, more than, you know, visual things, paint, new carpets, freshening up of places.
A new building at Silvercrest.
Yeah, a new building, and what those will do. So, you know, our district continually...
Adjacent building, not the school building.
Right.
But yeah.
Our district continually, for those that don't realize what we try to do, find funding to help these problems over the years. They've done our team has done a fabulous job of that over the years, but some good news.
And that's a really good point that it doesn't answer the question about, deferred maintenance. But it shows past performance that can help predict future, to build trust, to say, look, these are the projects that have been completed using the grants from the state, and this is how proactive the district has been. So that's a very good point. Tom, you got any thoughts?
I don't know, just, just quit calling it deferred maintenance and start calling it an overhaul. Remodel. Anything that, any complicated machinery or building or home has to be, it's time just for a full remodel, and you go through and you bring everything up to date, and the buildings should be good to go for the most part, for another 20, 30 years. It's kind of the idea. You're just bringing it, we do it all the time. Deferred maintenance is not a negative term. It's you just kind of, let's just keep that part of the building going, or machinery or whatever it is you're talking about going until we'll overhaul the whole darn thing. And that's kind of what we're endeavoring to do right now. It's not... Deferred maintenance says, we're not going to paint, and we're not going to mow the lawns. We're just letting the thing go and fall apart. And that's clearly not what's going on in these buildings.
Right.
And I've been following my kids and their athletic endeavors all up and down the Willamette Valley for over a decade. And we have some of the best looking buildings in the district. The facilities are maintained, they're clean, there's zero garbage. It's just that they look amazing. They're well taken care of. They're well taken care of. And these buildings that have been supposedly past their useful life, well, they're not. They're clearly being used, and we're going to put a bunch of money into them and keep them going them right where they're at. Because if you do let them completely deteriorate, then you got to start over, and there's a lot of expense in the complete tear down, and literally starting over. Leave your building where it's at, put money into it now, and you'll be far better off down the road. So,
Yep. A lot of people live in 100-plus-year-old houses.
yeah, I got a 120-year-old farmhouse that I rent. That's beautiful. So, yep. Look at Evergreen. Bethany, I think that's one of the oldest buildings in the district. I think part of that, the original building at Bethany, I think, is well over 100 years old.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, we'll get her done.
Well, thank you all for your comments. I think it's important that the community hears, your thoughts, and it has just been an absolute pleasure working with you on this project over the past 3 years that I've been here. It's really exciting to move into this last phase. So thank you for that. I wanted to update you a little bit on the principal selection for Evergreen and Victor Point. But before I do that, I want to give special thanks to Elisa and Lance Ryan, Jesse and Leah Rue from Victor Point, our parents that have been with us throughout this selection process, and Angela McGraw, parent from Evergreen. And also head teachers Casey Murphy and Megan Learman, who have just been wonderful to work with. They both were a part of the case study round, and we just finished the staff interaction stages for both schools. We finished last Friday with Evergreen. Both went really well. We've advanced one person out of from the case study rounds into the staff interaction, and the parent forum, I guess is what we're calling, is tomorrow night. And of course, you as board members are always welcome. We are having that at Victor Point tomorrow night at 7. And both communities will be there for that. This is just an outline, and I've shown this to you many different times, that kind of outlines our 8-stage process. You know all about the reasons why we spend so much time being meticulous about our hiring, especially with our leaders. The teacher is the most important factor in any school. That is absolutely correct. But without a principal there as an instructional leader to bring everybody together and keep them headed in the right direction, the system doesn't work. And so we'll see how our candidate does in the parent forum, and we will be visiting her school on Thursday. We'll be out there to talk to staff to kind of see the environment that she's worked in and some of her accomplishments, and then there are a few steps after that. The reference checks are ongoing and in progress, and we save those to the end because, number one, we know with references, they're 99.9% of the time going to be a positive reference for someone. But what we want to know is whether or not the information that we collected during these 8 stages of the process is congruent with what the references say. Because it's in that incongruence that alarm bells start to go off. Or if it is congruent, then that's great. We just confirmed what we already knew. But without having an 8-stage process, you cannot get that level of data on a future leader. It takes multiple interactions with a leadership candidate to be able to gather that and then to make to have a successful reference check in comparing that. I handle the reference checks myself. I do not delegate those. I feel very strongly that I need to be the one to do that piece of the hiring process. Dan has done an incredible job with keeping both communities up to speed at every stage of the process, but also importantly, keeping each one of the candidates up to speed, because we want this to be a really positive professional development experience for our future leaders. Because if they aren't future leaders with us, they will go on to other districts and become administrators there, so it matters. And the one thing I just love about the way Dan's set up things is that if a candidate drops out or if a candidate is not passed to the next round, and we have 3 cut points up there, it's very competitive, Dan offers his time to give them feedback on how they can improve their interview skills for the next time they go to a different district, or if they apply to one of our positions again. This is what we'd like to see more of. And that's really important too, because we want those who don't make it through our process, and that's the vast majority. The pass rate for our process is about an 85% washout rate. Only one's going to make it to the end. I've never been in a situation where we've had 2 finalists, and we've hired 85% of our leaders in the last 3 years. That we want those folks to be the cheerleaders to say that was the most rigorous process I've ever been through, and I'm better for it. And so the candidate that we've advanced, the sole candidate, is Elise Hansen. She has not made it to a point yet in the process where we will declare a finalist. That happens after round 7, after reference checks, and we've visited the person's school or place of work. At that point, we typically are prepared to name a finalist, and then it's down to the last interview, and that's with the district leadership team. To make this very clear also with this hiring process, it does not mean that we hire by committee. It's not a vote. This isn't a vote of who we liked best. This is a very important decision that weighs very heavily on those who are responsible and will be held accountable for that decision also. So that final decision, of course, I'm held accountable for that final decision, but the final decision is made by the district leadership team. That's myself, Dan Bush is our assistant superintendent, Steve Nielsen is our director of finance and operations, and Leslie Roach, our director of teaching and learning. And I would find it really hard to come up with a decision on a candidate without the unanimous support of the district leadership team. So just want to make sure, you can never be too clear on these types of things. But that is the most important decision a leader has to make for a school system, which is the hiring of other leaders. And I hope you've seen the progress that our leaders who have been hired in the past 3 years, and not only that, but the incredible work that our veteran principals continue to make and continue to set an example for our newer leaders on a daily basis. We're a very tight-knit group, the administrator group. We meet once a week on Tuesdays, and this decision is really important to see who's going to have the privilege to come in and join that team. Any questions on that, the process, anything else, or comments?
Regarding the process itself, what, if anything, have you guys learned just from the process? You've been doing it now 3 years. What are you guys fine-tuning it? What kind of things have you learned?
Well, of course, when I came in, I was a career principal after 14 years. So the process that I was used to running was for teachers. But I always knew that the process could be easily transferable into hiring leaders. And so I have grown exponentially with Dan and Steve and Leslie, because every step of the way and with every hire, we're able to refine each stage, whether it's coming up with a better performance task that can really showcase the candidate's skill, or in the case of one of our schools where we've had to hire a principal ended up leaving, and then as you know, we had a leadership change at the same school this year. We've certainly spent many hours going over at which points in the process do we think that we may have missed something or not done our due diligence, but I will say it's not from a lack of effort or structure. And I will also say that nobody ever hires perfectly. And I will say that hiring 85% of our leaders in the past 3 years, that's a pretty good track record right there. Because I think you would say the same thing about the leaders that we have hired that have gone through this process. As we say, Jonathan, you can't bat 1,000.
I'll add, I think one thing, both with the Central Howell process and this process, is having I almost call it like a parent oversight team here, like we have with the parents that Scott had up there.
Daniel, can you put the presentation back up for me? Thanks. Go ahead, Daniel.
And so what we did with the Central Howell after the parent listening session, after a couple of days, we had those parents come back in and kind of give us their own assessment of it. One thing that's nice about working with parents that aren't in education, they don't always speak the educational language, so they'll ask a lot of questions that we may just be too close to. And so we actually have a meeting scheduled with these parents on Wednesday. And we really ask their honest feedback of, do you feel like we've been really transparent with the community? Feel like what we've projected as our goal are we living up to that? And so I think that both the Central Howell Pradham and this one, having these parent advisors, has really been helpful to us. And just listening to folks, like we were initially planning to have the staff input sessions tomorrow, but staff were like, we want to get involved sooner. The parents were advocating for that, so we pivoted. We had Victor Point last Thursday, Evergreen Friday, because they said we really want to hear what our teachers have to say a little bit sooner if possible. So listening to that and not getting stuck on, no, we said we're going to do it this way, so listening and trying to adjust.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
Of course. Okay, so that leads us into going over the new licensed collective bargaining agreement. I'm going to turn it over to Dan.
All right. Well, like that last slide, you're going to resolution to approve the new bargaining agreement here later on. So give you a few summary of some accomplishments. I'm not going to read this whole slide. This was presented to you at our special board meeting that we had roughly a month ago, I think. And but I went ahead and put this on here because I was meeting with Allison Stolfus shortly after we reached an agreement, and she made the comment to me. She goes, as we're going back through the contract and getting all this stuff ready for ratification, she goes, we accomplished a lot of things. And I thought, yes, we did. And so this is a short list of a lot of things that we accomplished in this, and these were primarily workload related issues that we were able to solve. So again, won't go over those. Did think that we'd come back, highlight the class size language. So here's a brief summary of what how we're able to reach an agreement. So what lives in our contract is that class size information will be shared before summer break and upon return. There's a pool of $30,000 for possible salary increases, which is a teacher could get a 1.5% increase if a committee, as that next slide talks, or next bullet talks about, process to review class size concerns. So there's a pool of money, and there could be a 1.5 salary increase for class size issues. The MOU is where the class size and caseload targets reside. And so that was obviously one of the sticking points we talked about a lot, is where do the establishments of the targets, where do they live? There's a committee to review and establish annual targets, and then the MOU expires in 2025, which is also when the contract expires. This is the 2022-23 salary schedule. So there isn't, in the next slide I'll talk about the overall effective COLA, but this was something that SFEA proposed. You can see we kind of changed what step people are on, and so we're going to do, we'll be sharing with them how that transition from what they're currently on to their new step will go out to them. And so that 2022-23 equivalent of all that restructure, the equivalent COLA was 5.8%. And then the next 2 years, the COLA increases, there's like first one, 1.25 to start next school year, and then halfway through the school year, they get another 1.25. And I think, Steve, the net on that is 1.9 COLA for next year. And then the same principle happens again, where there's a first half COLA and a second half COLA, and I think, what's that, 2.21? 2.3? And then also, we put a lot of time and effort, and actually a committee put a lot of time and effort into a new extra duty salary schedule that will go into effect next year. And then those are the insurance per month, and then the opt-out provision for those who qualify for an opt-out. And you can see those capping at $1,700, and part of that was, kind of the concept of slicing the pie a little bit, is do you want COLA, do you want insurance? And so that's where there were a little bit of adjustments from where we were at going into that last mediation session, because there was a little bit of reduction in health insurance to increase the COLA.
And that was at the request of SFEA.
Correct. Or through the negotiation process.
Got it. But it's not something that we initiated. We've been pretty flexible in terms of this is how much money we have and where it goes. That's gives options.
So I think that's it for Superintendent Report 2, unless there's any questions on negotiations.
Just thanks everybody for the long process.
Right. And for keeping us informed the whole way. I mean, I felt informed all the way along, and I appreciate that.
I think the amazing thing was that every one of you played a significant role along the way, and that part was just so neat to see. Really relying on your expertise and the things that you do every day as well. And so I can't thank you enough for that.
I just want to highlight Aaron. He probably took a lot of days off work to be involved. So
Yeah.
thank you for doing that.
Very much appreciated.
All right. Are we ready?
We're ready.
Brandon, it's your turn. Next up is the Special Education Report presented by Brandon Larson, Administrator of Special Services.
Do you need a clicker, Brandon?
Yes. Which mic? Doesn't matter.
I don't even know.
Right in the middle.
Both.
So I just want to share a little bit about special education, what's going on. I'm new to the position this year. I started mid-September, and so just give you an update on how I've been spending my time and what my priorities have been so far this year as I've learned the district and learning the position. So we currently have about 480 students receiving SPED services in the district, K through 21. About 75% of those are an LRC placement, Learning Resource Center placement, which means they spend the majority, if not all of their day in the general ed classroom, and about a quarter of our students are in special programs. And our special programs are functional skills classes, which are highly individualized, self-contained classrooms for students that need more significant support, low student to staff ratio with a focus on life skills, functional academics, and increasing communication and mobility. Our basic skills classrooms are structured self-contained classes with small group instruction, opportunities for the development of functional reading, math, written language, and life skills, and self-help and social skills support as well. And then our structured learning program are structured self-contained classes with small group and individual instruction with a focus on behavior and social skills, and students have opportunities to receive support in behavior and social skills with the goal of them being able to spend more of their day in a regular ed classroom. And our community transition program for students who have completed high school with a non-standard diploma, they're eligible to attend our transition program through age 21, and they which has a focus on independence and adult living and work skills. As far as staffing goes, staffing updates, we've been very fortunate this year. Our staffing has been very consistent, and that's not something that a lot of districts can say. A lot of other directors, special ed admin are spending most of their days teaching. All of our certified positions have been filled this year, and our staff are doing a fantastic job. We have a few staff who are working in certified positions that are still working towards licensure, but they are all doing a fantastic job. And the majority of our classified positions have been filled for the school year as well. We've had a couple, one specifically that's been really challenging to fill, but of course it's been tough to find subs as well, like everybody else. As Kathy mentioned earlier, we've added certified and classified staffing to Bethany Charter School and Community Roots this year as a response to increasing caseloads. Traditionally, those two schools have had small number of students in special education. This year, we've seen a significant increase, and so adding staffing in both of those buildings has been paramount, and I've really enjoyed working with Kristen and Kathy and supporting those buildings. We started the year with the special ed TOSA position unfilled. Rachel Ayers, about November or so, she's a community transition program teacher, started working in a part-time capacity as a special ed TOSA. And as the year went on and her and I were talking about that position, we really wanted to move that away from being reactive and putting out fires and really being proactive and helping to build capacity with our staff. And she's done a fantastic job mentoring our new staff and then also case managing for our folks that are working towards licensure. We recently hired 2 speech language pathologists for next year, which is no small feat. Those are not easy to come by right now. And we're in the process of hiring for behavior and autism specialists, and then also adding a 4th LRC teacher to the high school to address caseload concerns. So it took some time for me to get my head wrapped around this district, and I think, I thought a lot of things coming in, but then actually going to the buildings and living it, I learned it was very much something different, and especially with so many of our special ed staff and our specialists who serve multiple buildings. I think it's one thing to be a teacher at one of our unique K-8 schools, but to be somebody who is serving multiple K-8 schools, and each one of them is completely different, and staffs are different, student needs are different. It took me a few months to kind of get settled in that regard. For my goals this year, I'm really focusing on goal area 1, which is preparing students for graduation, whether that's a standard diploma or other diploma options, and then also getting them ready for post-secondary success. So my 3 areas that I'm focusing on this year are our systems, staff support, communication, and transparency. And when I started, I met with every district special ed staff and specialists just to hear from them, learn about their program, see what they wanted from me coming in from this position. And I got a lot of really great feedback and honest answers from them. And one thing that I heard over and over again was that our staff really wanted to have somebody who was present and in buildings and someone who's going to be able to give them feedback. And so the 3 areas, my theories of action for each area: systems. If the SPED department has consistent process and expectations, we can establish a high standard for case management and state compliance that will lead to improved outcomes for students we serve. For staff support, if special education teachers and specialists are supported and well informed, they will build capacity to deliver consistent and high quality instruction. And for communication, if the SFSD staff have an understanding of the district special ed programs, it will remove barriers between special education and general education and lead to equitable outcomes, equitable and consistent outcomes for all students. So breaking each one of those down for systems, a huge part of professional development this year has been trying to get consistent process for our different teams, beginning with the specialist team at the beginning of the year, but especially for paperwork and process for our teachers. We have a lot of amazing teachers, but I don't know that there's been opportunities for them to get together and collaborate around paperwork and process. And we started an IEP review process where all paperwork that's submitted, our teachers are able to get feedback on that directly following our areas of focus with monthly professional development. Another thing I heard from staff too is trying to get a centralized location for all of our resources. We have amazingly talented specialists and teaching staff, but we have a lot of shared knowledge, but it's a lot of trying to find, oh, who has this person has this, I'll go to this person, but trying to find a central location for that. And Rachel has really taken that to the next level and is working to develop kind of a website that will live in our staff bookmarks that'll be available to all staff for them to access. And then working with specialist staff and around their evaluation process, definitions, criteria, eligibility criteria, not only to support our school special ed teams, but also to really support with onboarding of new staff. I mean, if we have new autism specialists, behavior specialists, speech paths coming in, helping to have a consistent process will allow us to recruit and retain those good folks. And then she's also working with our special programs to update our placement process and program definitions for our special programs. So we have monthly meetings for our department teams. I meet with the specialist staff monthly, and I also meet with the LRC teachers monthly. Rachel has been supporting our special programs teachers monthly. I think next year there will be some opportunities for us to meet as an entire department, but really by splitting those meetings, it's allowed us to focus on areas of support that are really specific to the job. I mean, they're all special ed teachers, but really an LRC teacher and a special program teacher have a different lens with which they approach the work. And so it's really allowed us to drill down and for them to get feedback and work with their colleagues. Rachel has been mentoring new staff, like I mentioned. She has weekly meetings with all new staff. And then she's also provides on-demand support as needed if issues arise. Working on roles and responsibilities and trying to find dedicated protected time for colleagues to connect who teach in like positions, and then also work to further clarify staff roles within the SPED team and then also within their building. And for communication, monthly PLC meetings, like I mentioned, observations, site visits. Rachel and I are both committed to being on site as much as we can, working in programs, being there to support, step in, fill in, provide coverage as needed if there's absences or vacancies. We have a monthly newsletter that goes out, typically following our professional development. So we provide PD in our monthly meetings, and then after getting staff feedback, they have interesting perspective on that, and those conversations often bring about new information, new things that we didn't consider. We kind of summarize that and send that out monthly to all of our teaching staff. And then one project that is still ongoing is updating our district website and providing more information. Right now there's not a ton, and so hopefully at the end of this school year, all the work that we've done, we'll be able to take that, and that'll be a project this summer, is to take all that information and add it to our district website for families and our staff. I have some thank yous. Some people I want to recognize, some programs I want to recognize. So Amber Charda is my special services administrative assistant. She's been instrumental in helping me this year and very supportive and patient with me, and in a lot of ways. Rachel has been a game changer. I wish we would have made the move to have her be our TOSA from the beginning of the year. I'm proud of the mentoring that she provides. Our new staff are learning from her, and her availability and especially her depth of knowledge with our special programs has been fantastic. The Silverton United Methodist Church has been a fantastic partner for us this year. Our transition program moved into that building this year, and it's not just a tenant relationship. They love having us there. They actually went above and beyond and hosted a adult prom for individuals with disabilities for our community, and we had amazing turnout from our students and staff and families, and it's a partnership we hope to continue for many years. Teacher Appreciation Week, our special ed teaching staff, thank you for the work that you do daily. I think Lori summed it up best with consistent. And for a population of students that need consistency, our SPED teachers are that consistency, consistent, positive regard for our students, and they show up every day for them. And then last, I want to thank our unified basketball coaches and volunteers. We had a middle school program this year to go along with our high school program, and everybody who participated, supported at events, high school staff that supported, cooking meals for our athletes and participants. Thank you. If you've never been to a unified game, it's amazing, uplifting, heartwarming. It's fantastic. And this is my favorite slide. I want to end with this. So we had a unified alumni game this year. And so our former students, former athletes, former participants were able to come back and play against our high school team. And I know our transition program students have been talking about it for months, since the beginning of the season. When do we get to play? When do we get to play? And so it was great to have them be able to come back and participate in that. And fittingly, when one of the students in our transition program hit a buzzer beater to send the game into overtime, and then the game ended up in a tie, which I think is perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect ending. Yeah,
That's
it was awesome. So, do you all have any questions for me?
I just want to say great presentation. I really liked your theory of action format. That's super powerful for me to see, and I feel like I know a lot more about what's going on. So thank you so much for that awesome presentation.
Brandon, as one of our newest leaders, do you have any comments for the board on what your experience was like in our selection process?
It's uncomfortable, rigorous, but I appreciate it. I think our successful candidates appreciate it. I know that our principals appreciate it also, as we're working as a district to implement that, trickle it down a little bit with performance tasks and different layers for our teaching staff that we're hiring, the process for which we're hiring new teaching staff. I know that our 2 speech language pathologists went through a 4-step process, and both of them, the successful candidates, really appreciated it and said that it helped them not only get to know more about the district, but for them to feel like this is the right fit. I think both of them said some version of, if they took the time to go through this, I know that this is the right place for me. And so that included an initial interview, a writing sample, a panel interview, and then they had to do a performance task with our students. So they went in and taught a lesson. So, yeah.
One of the things I will say about Brandon is I can never find him. Brandon is in buildings. I don't know what the percentage Brandon is, but it has to be 90%. 90% of Brandon's time is not just in buildings, but in classrooms, working with teachers and students. And that's an expectation that we have for all of our school leaders. And Brandon, I just wanted to thank you publicly for that.
Thank you.
I was going to say the same thing. He's never in his office. And the 2 times I kind of catch him, he kind of busts through my door like Kramer from Seinfeld. Hey, you got a minute?
Yep.
And then every Friday almost, there's a phone call, and we're both on our commutes. And he's like, I've been racking up some questions I got to ask you. So anyways, he works incredibly hard out there, and he already knows like every staff member, every building. So outstanding job, Brandon.
And you said there were how many students?
480.
Okay.
Approximately. That was our December census.
I had no idea. That's a lot of kiddos to provide for.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. Extraordinary.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Brandon. All right, we're moving on to discussion items.
Special shout out to Craig Schurter for enduring the past 2 hours.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Craig. I really appreciate it.
We have first 12A, the ratification of collective bargaining agreement of Silver Falls Education Association and Silver Falls School District for 2022 to 2025. Any further discussion on the contract?
Just a big thank you to everybody who worked so tirelessly. We said it once, I'll say it again. It was a long process, but it looks like in the end, a lot of good things came out of it, and appreciate all your work. To the admin team, Dan probably in particular on this one, and really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Equal effort distributed across the team. So, especially Steve in the business department.
Okay. Next, we're going to talk about the Kromminga Access Easement, Resolution 5/8/2023. It looks like Steve is going to present to us. And Lauren.
Good evening.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Yes, thank you to Craig for sticking with us here. So Craig Schurter's here this evening. So just a real brief presentation. The resolution, has been posted on Board Book. We just wanted to provide a little background and additional information and be able to answer any questions you may have tonight. So we are recommending approval of Resolution 5-8-2023 to grant access easement to Craig Schurter. He purchased the property out here to the west of our fields here on this campus last year, and came to us as he did not have adequate access to that property, and so he's been outstanding to work with. And I know the resolution spells out the details, but I do want to turn it to Lauren to just kind of have him, from a facilities standpoint, kind of briefly describe what we did in working with Craig to get to this phase. So.
Yes, and Craig has been outstanding to work with. He's done most of the legwork on this because he knew we were busy. We basically met on site, looked at any kind of utilities, et cetera, that were going to be in the way that would be affected by this easement and putting in the drive to his property. We found basically the biggest issue is irrigation that's in that location, which will be basically rerouted, and we'll be putting in sleeves, et cetera. And he's agreed to everything that we've asked. We've asked to be able to review the plans for the easement access in advance and approve those so that we can make sure it's going to work and it's not going to create any adverse problems for the school. So I think it's a really good a good setup currently, and I don't see any problems that would impact the operations of the school by granting the easement, so.
So it's my understanding Craig will be putting in blackberries there, and most of the access, I think, will be during the summer, but even if it's during the school year, there's certain times of the day he's agreed not to access there. And so, in addition, Craig has graciously agreed to still keep the was it the south west east corner of that
East, yeah.
rectangle for the annual bonfire ceremony that we have for the high school students during the fall. So we really appreciate that.
Yes,
So, and as far as this was written by Mike Keene, one of our attorneys at Garrett Heeman Robertson, and Mike worked with Craig's attorney at Sawfield Griggs and worked out the legal agreement that we've come to an agreement on, and thought that it was ready to bring to you tonight.
I just have a quick question, if that's okay. I don't see that there's no expense associated with this on the part of the district.
As far as the work to get everything in place, no. There was a little bit of legal expense for our attorney to review the draft that Sawfield Griggs brought to us and the resulting resolution.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, I guess so this will be permanent, a permanent easement. Will this easement then extend if there's a property owner sale to the next person?
No, it's a great question, Tom.
You know, so I mean, granted, we have an agreement, and I'm sure that Craig will be fine with it, but the next person, are they gonna be as amenable to the, not using it during school hours and things like that? I just don't wanna make sure, I wanna make sure we're, anyway, you understand my question?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you for asking that. The agreement is null and void if it transfers ownership.
Okay, that helps, yeah.
Any others?
Looks pretty reasonable to me, so.
Very reasonable.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is discussion item 12C, the WESD Zone 3 election. We need to consider the approval of the appointment, I believe, of Alonso Oliveros. Am I correct? He's being appointed for a position that was vacated. Any questions about that?
Well, my question was, I guess, what our role was. There's only one candidate person. They've already been appointed, is that?
I think that we have to approve it. Debbie knows more than I do.
He represents Zone 3, that's us.
Right.
So we're
asked to.
So our option is to either nod our head and say sure, or to say no, and he'll be there anyway.
Yes, I
Okay.
think that's the case. I think that is the case.
Well, unless we, raise protests and.
I mean, the other districts, the other districts, have to, if they all say yes and we don't say yes, I'm sure that he would be
Yeah, it's
appointed.
either approve him or offer up a better candidate, kind of a thing, It's just,
I don't even think we can do that.
Well, good enough, but I mean, one person has applied, so anyway, yeah.
That's right. We're affirming the application.
Okay. And so, okay.
Yeah, so somebody's gonna have to make a motion on this, or not. I mean, we can just choose not to, but I think it would be responsible for us to make a motion to approve his appointment, or approve our vote to appoint him, because we don't do it by ourselves, right?
Right.
And then if you do approve his appointment, then tomorrow I will fill out the ballot on our behalf for the district.
Right. So we're
Send it off to the ESD.
we're deciding on our vote, which is either yes or no.
So, I guess I would just ask our superintendent, do you have any recommendation on the vote? Do we know anything about him?
I don't have a recommendation for the board on him.
He is the current.
The only
member.
thing we have is the application. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and he is the current representative member in Zone 3. basically it's coming for, I wouldn't say re-election. In essence, he's been in there
He was
since 2019.
Yeah, I mean, this, these are the things that, OSBA sends out emails stating there's a vacancy.
Well, this is WESD.
This isn't OSBA,
Or
it's WESD.
But there's
Similar idea.
But there's notifications, and we could have, if somebody wanted, this gentleman offered to fill it, so.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the application, I looked a little bit online. I really don't know much about him. Seems kind of like a political activist, but beyond that, I don't really know. There wasn't a lot of information. I thought the application was pretty generic, so.
Yep. Okay, so, any other discussion about that? All right, well, either we come up with a motion and it's seconded and we move forward, or we don't.
I wasn't in love with the candidate, but it seems like there's really not another candidate, so.
I'm not opposed to withholding my affirmation.
I'm not either. I looked through his application and, again, he's already serving in the position and really would like to be there and appreciate his service. I don't have any red flags. Yep.
Yeah, I'm inclined just to approve because he's put himself out there for service. I mean, this is a volunteer position.
Yeah.
And nobody else is stepping up.
I don't have a problem with it.
All right, well, we'll just see what happens during our action items then. Go ahead, Lori.
No, I just said I don't have a problem affirming
Okay.
him. All I had to say.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're at the second public comment segment. So this is specific to discussion and action items. If you would like to speak during public comment and are attending virtually, use the raise hand feature on Zoom. If you are attending in person, please approach the public comment table located in front of the board.
Eliza has her hand raised. So Daniel, can you promote Eliza?
Oh, hello. Can you all hear me?
We can. Eliza, can you state your
All right.
name in relationship to the district?
Yes, I am Eliza Torlin, and I am a parent in the district.
And
I wanted to speak tonight on teacher appreciation, the bond, the meeting date advice, and gratitude. It's quick, though.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to our teachers, staff, and administrators. On Teacher Appreciation Week, actually, I think this is the week when we really acknowledge all of that team that goes to our schools. My children have had so many deeply dedicated educators. I appreciate all the work each one does to try to meet their needs each day, each week, and each year. You are all champions in my mind. And then about the bond, I have volunteered for many years to understand the needs of all of our schools. I think Owen is correct in calling on the language problem with the term of deferred maintenance. It should be called something different, like outstanding maintenance or something of that sort. Each project I've seen the maintenance department manage, I've seen them stretch, especially from state grants. I watched the cafeteria roof be removed and replaced at Butte Creek during their seismic retrofit. I also saw many other useful alterations and refreshments to the main building at the school, including air conditioning in the computer lab, added offices for specialists, and fresh paint throughout. So my point is that I think that they will take every dollar offered and do as much as they possibly can. I'd like to finish by saying that I have not been able to find a date for the budget committee meeting. Tonight I learned it is this Thursday. We used to have upcoming meeting dates at the bottom of the school board agendas. That was helpful. If you want community involvement, you might add these dates back to the agenda, or you might add a meeting calendar or list to the board book list. If I have been unable to find something obvious to direct me with this, please tell me how to find it. And also, congratulations again for designing a solid contract with the SFEA. I'm sorry it had to take so long, but I see you all worked hard and have good results. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Eliza. Suggestion noted.
Thank you.
Anybody else there, Dan?
Nobody else with a hand raised.
I don't think we have anybody here. So let's move on then to action items. 14A, ratification of collective bargaining agreement of Silver Falls Education Association. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I move to ratify the collective bargaining agreement of the Silver Falls Education Association 2022 through 2025.
I'll second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to ratify the collective bargaining agreement of Silver Falls Education Association for 2022 or 2022 and 2025.
Lori,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Owen,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
all in favor.
Action item 14B is the Kromminga Access Easement, Resolution 5-8-2023.
I move to approve said resolution. So the Kromminga Access Easement 5/8/2023.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Kromminga Access Easement, Resolution 5-8-2023.
Lori,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Owen,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
all in favor.
And then 14C, the WESD Zone 3 election of Alonso Oliveros.
I will move to elect Alonso Oliveros to represent Zone 3 in the WESD.
Second?
Second.
Oh, beat you.
It's been moved and seconded to elect elect into the WESD Zone 3 Alonso Oliveros.
Lori,
Yes.
Jonathan,
No.
Owen,
No.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
5 yeses, 2 noes.
All right, motion passes. We're now at the future agenda item request. Does anybody have anything they'd like to suggest? All right, hearing none and without objection, meeting adjourned.